Hey everybody, yet another beautiful day here in the northern half of west central Minnesota. Uh, Today it was another Hinge-Cut day, probably the last one I'll do on our property until next winter, I'm guessing. So what I did today was kind of a combination of some hinge cutting and then some timber stand improvement. So what I got going on right now is I'm sitting on a ridge that runs north-south on our property. It goes quite a ways. It's not very deep, but the deer definitely love this ridge. We got a big swamp down that direction, and then all our egg land is up here over top of the ridge. What I have going on here is I have a hinge cut bedding area set up on this ridge, and today I decided to do some edge feathering and timber stand improvement. So edge feathering is literally just hinge cutting trees along the edge of the woods. Most times guys will do edge feathering to create a visual screen so the deer can't see out of the woods. You know, if you're accessing a stand, they won't be able to see you driving around on a four-wheeler, that type of stuff. Of course, they'd hear you on a wheeler, but the biggest thing it does is create a visual screen. I don't need so much of a visual screen on this section of land because it's such a steep ridge that where the deer are bedded, just the slope of the ridge would create enough of a screen. But I still decided to edge feather because I wanted to actually try stack my does up against the edge and try leave the middle or the hinge cut area, the hinge cut bedding area for bucks. So trying to kind of have a layered effect here with my does and bucks, because it's not, like I said, it's not a very deep ridge. So my thoughts are if I stack the does close to the food, hopefully I can get a few bucks to bed back off the food, because bucks don't tend to bed right next to the food, but does will if they have the cover. So here's the start of edge feathering. I did try to actually kind of rake out some doe beds along the way. You can see I got a little bed set up right in there. Got a nice cedar bush as a little backdrop. And we got another little deer bed sitting right there. You can see the hinge trees. Like I said, the other thing I tried to do was timber stand improvement too. I have a lot of red oak, a few white oaks along the top edge of this ridge. So if I came up on an oak, I wouldn't tend to hinge the trees around that. I just traditionally fell them. If you do hinge trees around other trees, yeah, it's going to help the crown because you get the tree out of that space competing for the crown area, but it's still going to be sucking nutrients and water. So I most of the time I would just traditionally kind of cut them off and open up that space for the red oaks. And we have a ton of red oaks. Here's one right here along this ridge. I didn't realize we had nearly as many as we did until I started cutting today, and I found a lot. So here you can see this is more of the open forest. Come up this direction, this is where the bigger hinge cut bedding area is. Here's my edge feathering, literally just working all the way along the edge of this hinge cut and the field. If we go back in here, you can see another nice area where just kind of raked out a little deer bed there. Gave myself, whenever you do rake out deer beds or you got spots that you think a deer might want to bed, you want to give them at least 2 escape routes to get out of it, not maybe 3 or 4 even. Deer don't like to feel like they're boxed in. I will tell you, if there's a spot where it just looks dynamite, where got 2-3 good escape routes, got really good back cover, maybe even a little bit of a canopy, not that you need that. If I got a spot like that and I rake it out, I'll come back and it will be a well-worn deer bed. So here you can kind of just look over the hinge cut bedding area. One thing I found with hinge cutting, I hinged a lot of these ironwoods, but you really have to bust open the canopy if you want them to live. I don't really want them to live. They're just a terrible mid-story tree. They kill the sunlight factor and really prevent a lot of this undergrowth from coming up. And you can see there's a lot of dead ones in here, but back there there's a lot more green. There's more live trees, and there's a few more maples and things like that mixed in. But I still hinge some of the ironwood because they do give, they'll hold firm for a while, so they give a nice concept of cover while the understory kind of grows up a bit. If we look up that direction, you can see more of the edge feathering that I had going on. There's the trees. I'll work my way up this direction as we get to climbing up the top of the ridge. You can see that edge feathering just creates a beautiful screen. You know, if this was flat ground, we were looking out, I mean, the deer would not be able to see you. You'd have a lot better time getting into your deer stand. Oh, let's see here. See, I'm just kind of working the very top part of the ridge. Here's kind of a cool little spot. I put a deer bed. It looked like a pretty traditional spot for a bed. There's just a tiny little hole they can escape out that way. Good hole that way, and then we'll go back this way. And so there's actually 3 routes. I am 90% sure the deer will use that spot. So there I got a cool little tunnel. This was the deer trail, and I just kind of feathered trees along it. I left that deer trail because that goes off one of our deer stands. I didn't want to cut them off. I'll just work my way over this way. One other thing I did in this bedding area is I sprinkled in a few spruce trees. I mean, the big goal with hinge cutting is you want your undergrowth to really blow up. But one thing I've learned is just to pay attention to what the deer do naturally. And if I'm walking in a thick cutover or an area with just kind of dense undergrowth, and I find isolated pine trees or just evergreens, I inevitably tend to find a deer bedded up against it. So I literally just did a handful. I'm not going to hurt my regen or anything. Just sprinkled a few in here where I thought maybe it would work out good in the future for deer to bed up against it. But here you can see I got one right there, and they should just help bring more diversity to this bedding area and just kind of enhance it a little bit more for the future. Like I said, just a handful. I didn't go crazy. I don't want a dense stand of evergreens in here. I just want a few to give it a little extra diversity and maybe just some other options for deer as far as bedding goes. So here we got more of just that edge feathering effect. Try to feather them out towards the field, because then they're going to get sun and they'll stay alive for a little while and give you a nice visual screen. Give me some nice, hopefully, bedding right up against the edge of the food. See, it's just these ones might not stay alive that great. Actually here I cut quite a few off because here's my oak trees. Those are nice looking oaks too, nice straight oaks. I want them babies to blow up because I love oak trees. Yeah, it felt good to free up these oaks today. I just think it's going to help the overall quality of the timber or the forest. Here we go. So here we just had some big trees. I didn't do any edge feathering right there. Then there was a little bit up in there that I did last winter. But yeah, you can see there's some huge red oaks up in there. And our deer stand is right back over there. Actually, this is a deer trail right here. It goes right out to here's the tunnel, right out to a deer stand. And that's actually a stand I shot my bull buck in last year. So, but this is only this stand this Hinge-Cut I cut last summer, but if we kind of walk down in it, you can see that the undergrowth is booming pretty good. It should really jump this. Should really jump this summer. And this stuff is, you know, some of it's already waist high. You know, we want to keep the food down where the deer are at, and by letting some sunlight in, I've been able to get some nice regrowth, which is my ultimate goal. But the other thing I did, I just walked around with the landscaping rake, and I did a lot of that. Raked out areas where I figured the deer would bed. Most of these areas were areas I raked out last year, and as I was raking, I noticed a lot of deer hair already in them. So deer are definitely using them. It's nice when you have a plan and it starts to come together. I just think with what I did today with edge feathering, I think I upped the carrying capacity of this area. I think I'll have a few more deer using it, and it's going to be pretty fun because we got deer stand right up the hill over there, and there's actually bedding back just straight that direction from it as well. So there's bedding back there, bedding here. We got another deer stand down that direction, down the ridge, and then behind that is another bedding area. So got a few good bedding areas here that the deer really like, and this ridge is just awesome during the rut. So yeah, hope you like the video. Also hope you just have a great day. God bless you all. Take care.